All right. So I want to jump in and give you just a little bit about your instructor today. Just a little bit of the fun facts because he's the man. So if you don't know who Jacquire is, other than being a total stud of a person, a really great guy, a good friend, and a guy who has prepared a lot for today and has put in a lot of work to bring an amazing workshop. He's a top-level music producer. He's been doing this for over 30 years, landed his first studio job in 1988, first major label credit, interestingly enough, in 1997 as an engineer on Third Eye Blind's debut album. We had a fun moment at Mix with the Masters at lunch. Danny knows what I'm talking about. Jacquire knows what I'm talking about. I don't know if you remember that, Jacquire, when someone was making fun of that record, and then you said, I actually engineered that. They were making fun of the band.
I do remember that, yes.
They were making fun of the band, not the record, but it was a funny moment where Jacquire, we're all eating lunch, and someone was making fun of Third Eye Blind, and he's like, I actually engineered that record. And we all kind of like jaw dropped, like, sorry. That was awesome. But Grammy wins, right? Dude's been nominated a bunch, but won for Tom Waits' Mule Variations in 1999. Got a second Grammy for contributing to Buddy Guy's album, Blues Singer. And then won his third Grammy with Kings of Leon with their Only by the Night record. Here's just a list of some of the people he's worked with. Kings of Leon, James Bay, Tom Waits, Norah Jones, Kalea, Moon Taxi. I mean, the list goes on. It's insane the people he's worked with. And I love the variety, too. I love the variety, and I love the challenge. I think that's one of the things I really respect about Jacquire is he takes on different challenges because he likes to do good music with all kinds of different people. So he's the real deal, and a big reason why I've been really excited to finally do a workshop with him because he's got so much knowledge to share and has so much experience. So let's talk about the workshop. Here's what you're going to learn today. He's going to give you a framework for producing a professional EP from your home studio. And that's what this whole deal is about. So there's 4 phases. He's going to teach all 4 phases. We're going to talk about the planning phase, the pre-production phase. So there's 2 whole phases before we record anything, which is part of doing this process well. And then, of course, recording and production, and then mixing and completing your EP. And we're going to walk through all 4 of those phases. Now, here's how it's going to work. There'll be a short Q&A section at the end of each phase. So he's going to teach. So again, let him teach, but then he'll do a Q&A at the end of each of those many phases. Then we'll do an extended Q&A section at the end of the entire workshop for even more questions. So the workshop may run 3 to 4 hours, may run over. Jacquire's generous with his time, says he wants to make sure that he gets everything covered. So it might go a little bit longer. If you're a note taker, please take notes. But if you can't take notes or you're not a note taker, don't worry. We're going to record the workshop. You'll get a copy of the recording in your members area since you purchased your ticket. This will be your material for life. And that way, also, if you have to leave early, or if something happens with the internet for you on your end, you're not going to miss anything because it's all going to be recorded and uploaded for you. I would say, though, please turn off any distracting things. So for sure, turn off social media, Facebook, YouTube. I would just say turn off your phone, close out any other tabs or any other browsers of your internet. All of that's going to suck up your bandwidth for your internet, which will make it harder for you to get a good, clear connection. So if I'm you, I'd close off any background applications on your computer or your phone or tablet so that you can just jump on in. All right, that's enough from me. So without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to Jacquire, and he's going to share his screen, and he's going to walk you through an amazing workshop. And Jacquire, I'm just grateful for you, man. I really appreciate you taking time to do this today.
Oh, man, thank you so much, Graham. I'm very excited to be here.
Well, hello, everyone. I'm very honored for all of you that are attending from all over the world. Graham is a dear friend, and I'm very grateful to him for inviting me to do this with you. He's got an incredible platform, and he's been a great teacher for you. And yeah, this is an incredible opportunity. As he said, I've prepared a lot, and you'll be probably wondering early on why there's so much talk about our mindset and our expectations, our planning, our preparation. It's because, as working as a producer, I'm really just wearing a couple hats as a producer, engineer, mixer. But when you're the artist, you're starting out from perhaps where many of you are starting from. it's a big job. You're self-managing. You're learning a lot of different things. The learning curve is steep, and I've made a bunch of notes, so I'm going to be referring to stuff, throughout this. The learning curve is steep, and as this goes on, I'll get a little bit better and get into a good flow of things as we talk today. One small point I want to make about my introduction, and I was an engineer on the Third Eye Blind record, but my dear friend Eric Valentine was the producer and the main engineer on that. So I would not want to take any credit that was undue, because really that's Eric's record. I was involved in it. He was a great friend, a bit of a mentor and a pal, and I won't spend a whole lot of time talking about that, but relationships, and we'll talk about relationships and how you deal with people. The relationship that I formed with him was very beneficial to me, because with him I went on and worked with Smash Mouth, and what else? Several other records, several other artists. So let's sort of start with the mindset and the expectations. This is a complicated and a far. Oh, you know what? I told you I'd get better at this. See, I gotta move my slides. So we need to deal with a lot of. You could come up with self-doubt. As an artist, the main thing that you're going to be concerned about is how your music comes across. And you have big goals, big expectations. You have big desires. This is something we dream about. It's a very there's a lot at stake. When you commit to being an artist and you want to get away from whatever maybe your day-to-day life is, it's your hopes and your dreams. So it's a big deal, and it's a very complicated thing if you're going to be doing this on your own. And so what I want to do is set this up to be realistic for you and to show you what it takes. Here you see me sitting in my studio, and I this isn't a home studio. Probably not the same home studio you're going to have, perhaps. And I don't say that in a mocking way, but I have all this wonderful gear here, but I'm in the room the size of a bedroom. This is my control room. And you can start small and grow into something like this. You don't need all this equipment necessarily, and that's another thing we're going to talk about. There's a lot to it. It's very complicated. I'm going to talk about the process and the mindset, and this is where we're going to start. We will talk about technical things. Certainly, and as this progresses and we get into things like pre-production and the recording and the mixing, I will talk about technical things. I'm not going to be overly specific. I'm not going to tell you how to specifically use a certain type of compressor or how to use a certain type of EQ. It's really about how to think about doing all this, because you're going to have to train yourself through the process. So let's see. I have too many notes everywhere. It's a lot of things that you're going to have to learn and master over a pretty big time frame. You need to be patient with it. You need to make short and long-term goals. I've already said you'll be wearing many hats, and you need to be patient with your self-management, because you're going to have to take yourself in and out of roles. And I'm not saying, I would not pretend to identify where all of you are starting from. And I don't want to necessarily talk about one genre of music. I think we will spend some time talking about more basic recording techniques that may not apply to all styles of music, but probably everybody's going to want to record their voice. So, there will be different things that we touch on. Look, here at the bottom, we're expecting a great result, but we need to, temper our expectations. can we name some songs from first records of Prince, David Bowie, or Queen, or whatever some other artists are? We've mentioned Third Eye Blind. Well, that first record was a huge record, and very successful. So there's a first record where it had a lot of success. But then another artist that I worked with, Kings of Leon, really the Only by the Night record, which is what really turned them into like sort of an international band, was their fourth record. It takes time. So you have to look at it in those realistic terms, that you're not going to knock this out of the park necessarily. I'm not saying you can't. Those things happen. But you have to understand that it's going to take a little bit of time. And also keep in mind that almost all of these higher profile records that would be released on major labels or that have made people famous, oftentimes, the majority of the time, what their work to be is done with professionals. And many of you may not be professionals yet, and you're aspiring to it. So you've got to kind of work your way towards that. To the industry, oftentimes what you do as your early work, hopefully you're going to get to the place where you can release some singles, EP, maybe an album. I think an album is a little ambitious at this stage of things if you're just starting, but no matter what, the industry usually looks at these things as a demo. For instance, the Of Monsters of Men record that I was a part of. They made a whole record of their own on their own in Iceland, and had released it in Iceland, and then they were signed by a major label. Then the major label brought the band to me and said, we want to have you rework some of the songs from the initial release, add new music. They felt like they only had one or two singles. They were like asking me if I could help them with new music and create material that hadn't been recorded yet for further singles, and rework some of the songs that were on the record, and then take that out into the world. I worked with Nora Jones. She was a successful artist at that stage of things, but fact about her is that she was a prolific performer, very good musician, formal training, and she had been doing a lot of gigs in New York with her band. And that first record, the Come Away With Me record, I think half of the songs on that record are from like a 2-day session that they did as a band with no one helping them. They went to a studio and recorded like a whole album's worth of songs in a couple days. And that turned into the debut record. The record label tried to have them re-record and redo stuff, and some things they just couldn't beat. New music was added, but some of the songs that she's most famous for, where her career started, were stuff that she did on her own. Now, she went to a professional studio, very accomplished musician, was at a very high level. I would expect that some of you are like that, and you may be closer than others in this process. But I'm gonna kind of try to treat all of this in a very general tone, and just sort of start from what is basic. There will be information for everybody in this, I promise. Some of the things that I'm going to say, and I don't want this is not meant to sound egotistical, but some of the things I'm going to say are going to sound very simple, and you might have to hear it a couple times or think about it and reflect on it before it really makes a difference. But hopefully I've prepared and thought about this a great deal in a way that hopefully I can explain to you and give you just small things to think about to help you grow through this process. So let's see. I think we can move along here. Okay. So starting with a clear plan of what you're going to do. I sort of have this question here of what kind of artist do you want to be? Are you a solo artist? Are you a band? Do you want to tour? Do you want to make music in your studio home or otherwise, and just put it out there, and keep the life you have, but also create music on the side, and get it licensed or have other people record it. And when I mean licensed, I mean used for a commercial or put in a film or different things like that. Make income off of it that way. I want you to project yourself into the future. And the reason that I'm asking you to do that is if you're doing this on your own, you need to create context for yourself. You need to be those other hats and those other voices. You need to set goals, and you need to have some context to be able to evaluate your progress in. And I'm just going to treat this like you are on your own. As you progress, as an artist, you'll have a fan base that grows. And now you can start with a very small fan base, but then you have opinions. You have some stuff that you can reflect upon. Eventually, you might get a booking agent and a manager and a record label, and here come all of these voices. While those things can be really empowering and helpful, they can also be distracting. At this stage of things, we're going to just sort of try to decide. We're going to set our goals. When I meet with bands or artists sometimes, when it feels appropriate, I will ask them, what do they want to achieve with the record that we're going to make? What influences do they want to be recognized in the recorded body of work that we do? If someone were to write a review of your music, of your record, what is it that you'd hope they'd say? Where is it that you would hope you would be classified in terms of genre? These things are, they're opinions. And it really is the eye of the beholder and the listener to decide what those things are. But you want to begin to frame that, and to be able to, I really believe, to be able to execute that and kind of put some context around that for yourself, you need to sort of decide where you're headed. Now, it's not to say that this defines you forever, but what are your short-term goals? I'm sure many of your long-term goals are to be, a full-time artist, making a living that way, and that be your life. But that is a great goal. I had goals like that when I started out, but then you have to realize along the way there are so many little steps. There's so much to do, and for you in this process, there's just so much to know and learn. And here I've been making records professionally for over 30 years, and I'm still excited to learn. I'm still learning and growing. I feel like I still have the opportunity to get better, and I feel like the more sessions I have, the more interactions I have, just the better I get. And really, wisdom and the knowledge that I have is, I didn't start out that way. I started out much like you. I didn't have a clue. I started out loving music, and it just occurred to me that, I played some instruments in high school, and at just one point when I didn't want to go to college, it just occurred to me that, I got to do something. I got to figure out what I'm passionate about. And so maybe making records would be, the thing to do. And so in 1987, I went to the recording workshop, which is a very short program, and I got a base of knowledge that I was able to go get an assistant engineer's job and just sort of go from there and build and build. Before we get to where to spend our money, let me just make sure that I've covered everything in terms of some goal setting and some of our expectations. And we haven't even, we're at phase 0. Okay. We're still in phase 0. We even haven't gotten to the planning yet. Some notes I made for myself, and sort of this mindset expectations are, oftentimes our first attempts are not successful. And in successful, I mean in terms of that it may not sound very good, or the song may not feel finished, or maybe people don't like it, or maybe we don't like it, and that's okay. It for something to not be successful, it just means you get to a certain point and then you stop and you just let it go. This is a journey. I feel like failure is just quitting, basically. You can always learn from stuff. I make mistakes. People ask me to do things over, or I make a mix and someone says to me, they give me 5 things they want me to change. It's not because they don't like the mix. It's just they want to hear something a little different. I can't take it on as that I wasn't successful. It's just, it's not done. It's a progression, and it's not just my music. I'm creating music for and with others. No one makes a hit every time, and I've had a lot of success, but over the 30 years, I've made hundreds of records. I've recorded thousands and thousands of songs. And even though I'm very grateful for how long my list of credits are and the things that people know me for, it's a smaller percentage of the work that I've done. And that is true of many, many professionals out there. I'm probably the most notable thing I've done, or the thing that I've gotten the most attention for, is Kings of Leon. I made 3 records with them, but really Only by the Night was a big success, and it's meant a lot to my career. I made 3 records with Tom Waits. Those, like, as a learning experience, and as something that brings artists to me, means a lot. But you have to understand that not everything is going to be wildly successful. That doesn't mean that I don't put in the same effort every time, or I don't endeavor to have a great result. I have lots of great records that I feel really proud about, that I think are great, that barely anybody's heard. There's a record I made last summer with a fantastic artist. His name's Ford Terrell, and I mean, I think the record is spectacular. I'm still hopeful that we'll find. He's an independent artist. I'm still hopeful that we'll find a broader profile for it. But at the end of the day, I did it because I believed in the music, and I wanted to do something great that I could be proud of. And of course, I want to be successful. But we need to sort of have those expectations. And hopefully, you guys will be patient with me, and we'll get through a lot of material. I want to explain this stuff as much as possible. I don't want to overdo it, and I hope you're still with me. We don't need to be a master at everything. I consider myself to be a very capable recording engineer, very capable mixer, very capable producer. I can write songs to a certain degree. I can play some instruments to a certain level, but that doesn't mean I don't have to be great at everything to participate in this. The position you're in, you're sort of going to have to realize your strengths and weaknesses. You're going to be wearing all the hats. You're going to be doing all the jobs. Don't be too hard on yourself if you're not particularly great at one aspect of it. Over time, you can get better, and you'll learn. Your basic DAW, if you have Logic or Pro Tools or Ableton, there's so many different things. This is an expectation I want to talk about too. You don't need to go and spend a lot of money or have a lot of gear to make a vital and great recording and do something that can go out into the world and affect people. And really, I think that is, that sort of touches on something that's that we need to really understand in this presentation, in this webinar, is that you can do this. You don't need all these bells and whistles. All the stuff I have at my disposal, don't get me wrong, it's great, but I still think if I was to work with you or in you on your setup, I could figure out how to make a great recording, because it comes down to things that I'm going to be talking about and teaching you in this webinar, that are about, the quality of your song, preparation, how to communicate with people, how to work through all these learning curves that you're facing, and every program that you can multi-track with and record at home has all the basic elements that you need. I promise. Now, is it nice to have all these other palettes of sound and choices? Sure, it will help you create greater depth and character in your recordings, but that's like we're talking like the 10 and 15%. And while I'm not saying that that's not important, I'd be hypocritical to say that because I have all this stuff. It will not keep you from making the positive steps you need to make for yourself. Knowledge comes from experience. I'm able to do what I do because I've been doing it a long time, and I've made a lot of mistakes along the way. And I've had to just sort of pick myself back up and pursue it and persist at it. Let's see, how long was that? At the midpoint in my career, sometimes I was unemployed. And 20 years ago, when I was, about the time that that first Third Eye Blind record was made, sometimes I didn't have a job and I had to go paint houses, or I had to do other things. Don't think just because I'm sitting here and I'm successful that you can't be like me, or that my experience is not like yours. It also said in the introduction that I got my first studio job in 1987, or I went to the recording workshop in 1987, and it was basically 10 years later when I had a credit on a successful major label record. Well, what do you think I was doing for those 10 years? I was learning and growing. I'm not saying that what you're trying to do is going to take you 10 years to record and put out quality music of your own, but you have to understand it can be a long process. It's a lifelong journey. This vocation, this hobby, professional career that I have. Relationships are the most important, and I want to be really clear about this. Relationships are the most important part of creating and making a record. Many of you, your relationship is going to be with yourself, and that's why I go back to the goal setting. Who do you want to be? Where do you want to be? Project yourself into the future, because you have to do the work to go there, and then you need to step outside of yourself and look at where you want to go and evaluate where you are on your path and what things you need to work on to get better at, or just where things stand. You don't have to, I already said this, you don't have to be a great musician or a writer to be a great record maker. That's, you understanding who you are and you identifying your sound, and knowing where your strengths and weaknesses are will help you gather the right people around you, and know where to look for information to improve yourself. You got to work for your goals. No one starts at the top, and success is created by setting goals and working for them and evaluating. Okay, so where to spend your money? Where to spend your money? Well, I don't know how much money any of you have, and I don't even know what the average would be. But I'm gonna rewind back in time and just, when I was starting out, I didn't have any money. I had very little money, and every bit of money I would earn, I would save, and I'd buy another little piece of gear. So if you're gonna make an EP, or you're gonna record a song on your own, well, you're gonna have a computer. You obviously have a computer because you're here with me. And get yourself some little bit of software. And so the things that are going to be essential, you're going to need some microphones. And I have some microphones right here next to me that we're going to talk about in a minute. you're going to need a little bit of a budget, or you're going to have to accumulate some things over time. That's also something that you're going to need to be patient with. You're going to need your computer, your DAW. You're going to need an interface where you can have, mic pre's. You need headphones. You need a set of speakers, mic stand, cables. So there's a lot of little pieces that many of you probably already have some of this, but to truly do this on your own, you might have to flesh some things out a little bit. Where to spend your money? I think to get started, to be able to record at home, you're going to need 3 microphones, I think. If you're going to record instruments, if you're only recording one instrument at a time, or just your vocal, I mean, you can get away with one microphone, but you're probably going to want to have a few choices, because you don't want to record everything with the same microphone. If you record everything with the same microphone through the same recording chain, that sonic imprint. Now, see, this is where we're going to get more technical as this goes on, and we'll be talking about mindset and process, but then we'll also be talking about technical stuff. If you have the same microphone and recording path the whole time, you're going to basically have the same sonic thumbprint for everything you're recording. Here, this is probably one of the most inexpensive mics I have, and what I'm going to show you, it's a Shure SM7, $100 microphone, right? This is a great utility mic. Not saying that everyone has to have one, but this is a great one to have, because you can use this on a snare drum, you can use it on a guitar amp, you can really use it on anything. Tom Petty used to sing into one of these for his vocal mic at times. Really can do anything with it. You can record loud stuff. You can record an acoustic guitar. It won't sound like the most high fidelity acoustic guitar, but if you're doing a production where there's a lot of other stuff going on, rock music, or just a dense layers of production, this is a kind of a mid-rangey microphone, and the acoustic guitar will do well with this sort of frequency footprint. So you need a good dynamic microphone that's just kind of a utility mic. Like I said, snare drum, guitar amp, vocal. I mean, you can really record anything with this, I promise. Then another choice for a dynamic mic would be an RE20. This is like $100. I'm not sure how much this is. Probably $300 to $400. An RE20, it's an electro voice microphone. This is great for things that are low frequency focused. Like, this is a great kick drum mic. It's used for voiceovers. You probably see this as a broadcast vocal mic. Great on a bass amp. Great on anything, really. An SM7. This is primarily another kind of broadcast vocal mic, but this microphone is $400. It is a microphone that I use a lot on vocals. This is the vocal mic that Michael Jackson used. It works for a ton of stuff. A lot of people sound great on this. The Kaleo record that I made, which is kind of a rock record. This is the vocal mic. Lots of records get made with this as a vocal mic. This also makes a fantastic snare drum microphone, guitar microphone. It's sort of like an SM57, but like a sort of a higher fidelity version. Okay, and then there's something. So what I'm saying is, you need some kind of general dynamic microphone. Might be nice to have a kick drum microphone. This is a Beta 52. It's made by Shure. You can have an AKG D112. There's all kinds of kick drum specific microphones. It's good to have for that. It also works on other stuff. It's a kick drum specific microphone. It accentuates the low frequencies, scoops out some of the boxy mids that are like 3 to 600, and then kind of has a presence peak up in the articulated area of like 2.5K to 5K. So those are our dynamic microphones. And then you should have one. Now this is $1,000 microphone. You can get it. This is maybe a little more than $1,000 new. It's an AKG 414. This has multiple polar patterns on it, so you can. What that means is, it has cardioid, which only listens in front. Tighter cardioid pattern. It has an omni pattern, listens all the way around, and has a bidirectional pattern that listens on the front and the back of the microphone. So you can get rejection on the side, but also have it in front and back. And that can be kind of cool for, well, I don't want to get too much into recording techniques. I'll come back to that. Sorry, I want to get to the planning stage. But I want to talk about where to spend your money. So 414, this is a Mojave MA200. This is $1,000 microphone. It's a tube mic. This is just a condenser microphone. It's powered by phantom power. This is a tube condenser. Really great microphone. We use this all the time on acoustic guitar. It really, really sounds great. And that's like major label like stuff. Another great choice. And then this is an advanced audio. What is this? What is it? It's a 67 copy. It's a CM67 SE, I think is what it is. Under $1,000. Useful for a lot of things. Like these microphones are useful for acoustic guitars, overheads, voice, background vocals, strings, piano, all kinds of great acoustic instruments. And just so you know, if you're going to go buy a tube condenser used, just make sure that you get the microphone, the cage for it, the shock mount. This is a little bit of shock mount. There's a power supply. Every tube microphone has to have an outboard power supply. And then, well, that's probably not true. That's probably not true. And then you're going to have, most tube microphones have a cable, but it's a multi-pin cable. It's more than 3 connectors. So if you're buying something used, just know what you're getting into. But any of these things are $1,000 or less new. Okay, so I think at a bare minimum, and I'm not saying you have to have these all to start, but you should have a condenser microphone, a dynamic microphone, and a kick drum microphone. You need some headphones. Your budget is probably going to be a few $1,000s, couple $1,000, just to get those basic things.